In the same way that English dovetail is the standard of quality for an heirloom case piece and a drawer construction, mortise and tenon is the premium standard that's recognized by cabinet makers and furniture makers worldwide as the best way for joinery to be done in high quality heirloom furniture. All of the key joints in a Bermex or Bertanie chair or table or cabinet are done with mortise and tenon joinery. What is mortise and tenon? Well, there are many different ways to join pieces of wood together. In the value end of the segment, if we take these two pieces of wood and connect them like this, a low-end manufacturer might just fire pin nails right into the wood and hope that those hold. And in your promotional furniture, that's often how it's constructed. At the next level of quality, you would take a drill and drill a small hole into each piece of wood and use a pinky-sized wooden dowel, and that doweled construction would then reinforce the joint so that a glue would then be used to hold it tighter, and you would have a mid-quality level of construction. But the premier standard for heirloom quality is something called mortise and tenon. And in the case of mortise and tenon, rather than using a dowel, we actually take a large piece of wood and router away a section of that wood to leave a large protrusion called a tenon. And then on the other piece of the wood that we're joining to, we would take a router and create an equal and opposite hole called a mortise. When we join those two together, you'll see it's a perfect fit, and when we secure that with high quality, long-lasting furniture glue, the finished joint is actually stronger than the wood itself, so that once that has set, if I try and take it apart, I'll often break the wood before I would break the joint apart. So mortise and tenon joinery is used in all of our key places where we're joining together pieces of wood in our cabinets, our tables, and our chairs. Speaking of our chairs, let's spend a minute looking more closely at the difference between an imported chair and a heirloom quality chair from Bermex or Bertanie. I've tipped up a couple of chairs here to show you a little bit of the under the hood story. Let's start by looking at how some of the promotional products in the marketplace are manufactured. First of all, I jokingly like to say that this chair is Canadian made because it comes in a flat box, from this case from China, and some Canadian guy in the back of the warehouse has bolted it together for you before it goes out onto your floor or to your customer's home. The problem with that approach is, as long as these bolts, and if you look closely, you'll see on this particular chair we've got, it looks like 11 different bolts that are put into threaded receptacles. As long as each and every one of those bolts is securely tightened and stays that way, then you have a fairly sturdy chair construction. The problem is when you're dealing with wood which expands and contracts, as that expansion and contraction with humidity changes and just day-to-day use occurs, these bolts will naturally have a tendency to loosen. And if you have 8 chairs and 11 bolts per chair, unless your consumer is going to get down on the floor and tighten all 11 times 8, 88 bolts on a regular monthly basis, eventually what's going to happen is those bolts are going to come loose. And you'll see, and you can actually see on this chair here, this leg is actually wobbling within the frame because some of the bolts have come loose already on this particular model. It was probably tight when the retailer brought it out onto the floor, but it's just loosened naturally with time. So one of your customers' most common complaints and reasons for returning to the marketplace to buy a new dining room suite will be the fact that 2 or 3 of their chairs might have broken over the last 5 years, and now they're looking for an entire new dining room suite. In contrast, if we look at the Bermex and Bertanie chair, first of all, we can't really show this because it's a hidden feature, but remember that each and every place where we're joining wood together, we're actually bringing mortise and tenon joinery into play. So where this leg is attaching to the side frames and side rails of this chair, it is a mortise and tenon joint that's holding that in place. It's reinforced with a corner block that's in a finger jointed receptacle throughout the perimeter of the chair, and then we use high quality, high grade furniture glue that's long lasting and extremely strong to hold it all in place and in perfect square. This chair, unlike the import model, isn't assembled at the back of the store. It's completely assembled at our factory and completely cured in a rigid ready for use position and packaged, completely assembled and shipped to the store. So you're getting a factory assembled product instead of a ready to assemble product, and an heirloom quality product instead of what unfortunately becomes in some cases a disposable product. So the value here is in terms of a chair that's going to last not for 5 or 10 or 15 years, but literally for generations, 20 or 40 or 60 years. It's a commonplace thing for a customer to compare price points on imported chairs versus a Bermex or Bertanie chair. Well, this imported chair may be a $200 or $300 retail value chair in contrast with a $500, $600 or $700 Bermex or Bertanie chair. And the initial thought might be, ooh, that's twice as much money. But what's a better value if you think about the value proposition? Buying an imported chair for $200 today, it breaks in 5 years, I buy another one, I'm at $400. And another 5 years and I have to buy another one, I'm up at $600. I've spent the same amount of money, but my dining room now has mismatched chairs, and I've been to the store 3 times with frustrating claims, and heaven forbid someone gets hurt when one of those chairs breaks. So if the customer thinks about it that way, they'll see that the better value in the long run, and you spend even less money over the 10 to 20 year horizon, is buying an heirloom quality chair from the start. Another important thing that customers will often ask is, what's the weight rating on this chair? And at Bermex and Bertanie, we're proud to have tested our chairs up to 600 pounds, which I affectionately like to say, if you can fit on it, you can sit on it. Because the reality is, if you're a 700-pound person, you're probably not going to fit on this chair. So at a 600-pound weight rating, you can comfortably know that any customer who's properly using this chair will get a long, long period of enjoyment. How do we reflect that to help you sell to your customer? Well, we give all of our chair frames a 10-year warranty, which is unmatched in the industry. So not only is our chair going to last for generations, but if by chance you had a defect that occurred in that first decade, we would replace that frame at no charge to your customer. So you have a strong, strong value proposition with a premium factory assembled heirloom quality chair, assembled and manufactured with mortise and tenon joinery. The last thing I like to point out in terms of heirloom quality, it's great if we have a Canadian-made solid wood dining room that lasts for generations, but we want it to look good for a long time too. So we need a high quality finish. And with Bermex and Bertanie, we use a premium catalyzed varnish from the world's largest manufacturer of finishes called Valspar. We buy their top of the line finish, and this finish is such that you can spill or red wine or mustard or any common material that you would expect to come into contact with your dining room. And even if you don't clean up till the next morning after your dinner party, you should be able to comfortably and confidently know that you can wipe it up just with a damp cloth the next morning without any penetration of the natural tannins in the wine or the mustard or the ketchup penetrating into the wood and discoloring it. So we have a great heirloom quality story that adds tremendous value to the product, and the more confident and competent you are at conveying that to your customer, the more sales you will have. Thank you.